You're watching Legal Focus on TVC News. Our advocate for today is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olufunke Adekoya, a principal partner here at AELEX, based in Lagos, of course. You're welcome to the program. We thank you too for this opportunity to come interview you about crucial issues about yourself.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to have been invited.
Walk us through the beginning, how it all started for you, your journey to becoming a legal practitioner.
I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I've never given serious thought to ever being anything else. Maybe because my father studied law as an adult, so we saw him going to classes and he'd come back and talk about cases and things like that. So I've never considered maybe dramatic arts, but I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I graduated in 1974 from then the University of Ife. Privileged to have come top of my class. The idea was that I was going to go back to the university and be a lecturer. And then I went to do my youth service in private practice, and I enjoyed it so much that even though I had applied for an LLM and had got a position, I went to do my LLM and I came back into private practice. That was the end of an academic career.
So, well, talking about legal influences that shaped your mind back then, I take it your father must have been, one of the major influences. What about, tell us about your father and other influences that helped shape your mind then.
Okay, well, my father was an influence in the sense that I grew up in the legal profession. My father qualified elderly, qualified in 1963. Immediately he came back from the UK with us. He then took appointment as a magistrate in Tanzania, and he was in Tanzania till 1969. Then he came back to Nigeria, took appointment as a magistrate in then Benue Plateau State. So I've lived extensively in both Benue and Plateau states. And so that was one influence. I grew up in a legal background. There were strong concepts of what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
I then started my youth service in Kaduna at a time when we were the second set of women as lawyers to do youth service. So we were an anomaly. I was lucky to work in a law firm, Abdullah Ibrahim and Co., where there was no restrictions. It was a question of competence and ability to work. And so issues then as to we don't want a lawyer to represent us, which were quite common in the early 70s, he just firmly stamped it out. So my mindset has always been, you're not a woman lawyer, you're just a lawyer. And I've had that attitude ever since. Other influences, Mrs. Hairat Balogun. I did my law school attachment with her when I was in law school. And she explained issues of work-life balance, time management. One of the things she said then was, if you want to be a lawyer and you want to be a mother, you have to balance the two. Other influencers, my career in arbitration.
Right.
Chief Mrs. Tinuade Oyekunle. She was, I think, the forefront. I complained one day about litigation. I was in court, my matters were not going on, I was frustrated. And she said, have you considered the alternative? So people you meet along the way tend to have an influence on one's life. These are the people I would consider to have been influencers.
There's so much to know about you, but let me just take it as the thoughts come into my mind now. Private practice. So you learned all this and then you ventured out on your own private practice, so to speak. What was that period like? What would you pinpoint as the highs and the low moments?
Highs and the lows in private practice. I can tell you the low moment was taking a pro bono matter before a federal high court, asking for an injunction to be argued in time so that a candidate who had been refused admission or whose admission from the University of Lagos had been withdrawn could be allowed to matriculate. The low moment was the judge didn't understand what matriculation was. And he kept on talking about, I did matric. And we kept on trying to explain that the university will have its matriculation on such and such a date. If we can't argue our application before that date,
you would miss it.
We'll miss it, and the student will not be able to matriculate, even if the injunction is successful. That was a very low moment. High moments, many. Because as a woman, everything, every step is a high moment. But I would say collapsing my practice as Adekoya and Co. dispute resolution into AELEX and forming a full commercial law firm was a high moment, because for me it was the ambition, it was a dream that we should have large law firms that could cater across the cadre of legal services. I think that was a high moment. Another high moment, obviously, becoming a senior advocate. As a woman, I was the 5th. There weren't too many around then. There still are not.
Still aren't.
But high moment. Then being nominated by the chairman of the World Bank, one, to join the ICSID panel of arbitrators. For me, very high moment. First Nigerian to be nominated by the chairman of ICSID. So I thought that was a high moment. Also, being appointed to the World Bank Sanctions Board, which is a board that looks at issues of corruption, lack of ethics, fraud in World Bank contracts. High moment, because it meant that the image of Nigeria was not all about Yahoo, and 419.
I'm looking at more than 45 years experience in active litigation and arbitration. And like you rightly said, we're having a less than 5% entries of females who have become senior advocates of Nigeria. What's been done? What can be done, to increase this number among the, senior league of lawyers?
Well, I think the ball one is in our court. I think we still have the issues of a workplace environment that is friendly to women. Because if you need appearances before the courts and decisions to be able to apply, which is the basis, we need to have law firms trusting competent women to take serious cases that will be able and carry those cases through from beginning to end, so that they would have those cases to attach to their portfolios when they're applying. So I think it's still for us in the profession to stop saying there are no women at the bar, because there are. And we need to acknowledge that and give the space to allow the women to grow. We're just as competent if we have those opportunities.
So
but in many instances, we're not given those opportunities.
So by saying we're all men, there are no women, it's basically a man's profession. Not acknowledging that there are female genders in the legal profession is not helping the women eventually.
Exactly. It doesn't acknowledge what we do, because it's, there are no women at the bar. And once you say there are no women at the bar, then you don't take account of the special requirements of women in any profession. In AELEX, we have a creche for our younger women lawyers who are still raising a family, so that they can work with a mind at rest, that their children are well taken care of. But if you say there are no women at the bar, then you don't take account of the fact that a woman has other responsibilities that society expects her to fulfill, in addition to being a full-time lawyer. That's my complaint about, there are no women at the bar. Of course there are women at the bar.
So what next for arbitration in Nigeria? We've seen lawyers talking about, the lapses in the system. But for you, you've been an active practitioner. What's next? What is the next ground to take over now?
For me, two things. The first thing is we need to amend our federal arbitration law. The Lagos state law is more up to date and more modern, but more people use the federal law. So we must amend the federal law and bring it up to date with the UNCITRAL model law, because that makes us internationally recognized and acceptable. The second thing is that Lagos, especially now that Nigeria has signed the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, have a huge opportunity to be a regional hub for arbitration disputes in West Africa. And we need to push that agenda.
So looking at the legal profession, what's been your observation? What would you like to see changed?
I would like more emphasis on ethics in the legal profession. The amount of time that is being given to teaching ethics in the law school is insufficient. And the question of ethics is not something that should even be taught in the law school. It should run through the whole legal career. So from the universities right up to the law school and thereafter. I think that we need to emphasize the point that lawyers should be held to a higher standard. A Nigerian who had qualified as a solicitor in the United Kingdom in 2015 and who had become a member of parliament and who had been recalled because she had lied about a traffic offense and was jailed for 3 months. The Solicitors Disciplinary Council have withdrawn her license, so she's no more allowed to practice as a solicitor for being involved in an act of dishonesty. Now, would that happen in Nigeria? The chances are it wouldn't. There are so many lawyers who have been involved in less than ethical conduct who are walking around today, and nothing has happened, either because nobody has complained and because our regulatory body has not deemed fit to say, we read this law report or we read this thing in the paper. A lawyer is being accused. Come and answer.
But are you
so
talking
we need to teach ethics, and we need to enforce.
Right. Are you talking from personal experience? Because I know you chaired the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee. So were there challenges in the system that didn't give?
There are challenges in the system. Right. I chaired it was then the Bar Association's investigative committee. And in many instances, once there's something that looks like it may be newsworthy and it's a lawyer who's being investigated, our job was to decide whether there was a prima facie case. And if there was, send it to the disciplinary committee.
Right. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olufunke Adekoya, Principal Partner here at AELEX, we thank you so much for this interview. We're indeed honored.
Thank you. The pleasure has been all mine.
And that's been The Advocate today on Legal Focus. There's more on the program. Stay with us.